They used to call it love. At least that's what they told us it was. Every restriction, every weigh-in, every shame-laced dinner was framed as care.
Discipline, they said.
Protection.
Tradition.
I was 13 when it began, but by the time I realized we were trapped inside something far more sinister, I was already too deep in it. We all were. It started with weigh-ins. At first, just something my father did on Saturday mornings. A quiet ritual in our house. Step on the scale, get a pat on the head if the number had gone down, silence if it hadn't. I thought all families were like that. I thought love meant being praised for shrinking. My sister, and I didn't question it. We didn't have the words for questioning. But over time, those Saturdays turned into daily weigh-ins. The scale moved to the living room. We weren't allowed to eat breakfast until we'd stepped on it. Soon, the rest of the family joined. My cousins, my aunts, even our mothers who smiled tight smiles and nodded like this was all perfectly normal. The girls in our family were the focus. The boys, especially my cousin Brad, were witnesses, spectators who never had to strip down to their underwear in the cold morning air, while our uncles wrote down numbers on legal pads. By the time I turned 15, I knew how to trick the scale, how to hold my breath, how to shift my weight forward, how to drink just enough water to fake fullness, but not enough to tip the numbers. And that's when I started teaching the other girls. We'd meet in the church basement, under the guise of a sewing circle. Our needles moved, but our real work was strategy. How to beat them at their own game. How to survive. We didn't call it abuse, not yet. We called it survival. One day, my cousin Maya missed a sewing circle. We thought she was sick until her mother showed up with swollen eyes and told us Maya had been sent away. A retreat, she called it, for reflection and realignment. But the way her voice shook said otherwise. A few days later, I found Maya's name scratched off the family calendar in red ink. And just like that, she was gone. That was the first crack. The first time we understood the stakes. They weren't just measuring us. They were controlling us. Disappearing us. If we didn't comply, we'd be erased. We started collecting evidence. Photos of bruises. Notes detailing weigh-in times, calorie restrictions, sleep deprivation. But it all disappeared. Someone told the fathers. My cousin Brad, who I thought was on our side, had deleted everything, every file, every screenshot, every backup, on orders from my dad. When I confronted him, he said, "It's not that simple. He controls everything. My future, med school, letters of recommendation." I didn't have a choice. I wanted to scream that we didn't either. That betrayal cut deep. But deeper still was what came next. Random weigh-ins, sometimes twice a day. Different scales to ensure accuracy. We had to weigh in wearing assigned clothing. The goalposts kept moving. We were never safe. The final straw was when they started showing up at school. I was pulled from calculus and escorted to the counselor's office. My uncle sat there, all charm and crocodile tears, spinning a story about how I was encouraging other girls to overeat. "We think she has an eating disorder," he said solemnly. "The opposite kind." They wanted me declared a danger. Institutionalized, like Maya. That afternoon, my sister found a note in her locker. "Maya misses her family. Don't make the same mistake." They were watching us everywhere. 3 girls vanished from school that week, homeschooled now, according to their mothers. But we knew better. Isolation was the new tactic. Silence the resistors before they could spread. Then came Brad's second betrayal. I found files on his laptop, screenshots, message logs, behavior patterns. He'd been monitoring us for months. "I was trying to protect you," he said, eyes glossy. Or, at least stay ahead of Dad. I kept copies. In case I needed leverage. He had a folder labeled insurance. That's when I knew he wasn't just a traitor. He was playing both sides. Our sewing circle shrank. Only 4 of us left. 11-year-old Peggy asked if maybe we should stop. "My mom says we're tearing the family apart." I told her the truth. "It's already torn. We're just showing where it ripped." Margaret, a newer girl, offered a suggestion that changed everything. "Find adults outside the family," she said. "Real adults. Teachers, doctors. people who are required to report. So we did. We started visiting the school nurse one by one, complaining of dizziness, fatigue, irregular periods. All true. Mrs. Chun listened, took notes. Bring me documentation, she said. I'll file a report. But I need proof. But our fathers were ahead of us again. My mom woke me in the early hours whispering, "He's pulling you from school. He knows." Her hands shook. I can't stop him. Yes, you can, I said. You're our mother. I gave up a long time ago, she whispered. But something in her eyes had changed, something sharp. That afternoon, she drove us to school herself. If he asks, say you snuck out. I couldn't stop you. It was the first real act of defiance I'd seen from her. Small but hers. Mrs. Chun believed us. She started building a file. But we needed hard proof, photos, charts, medical records. I had to return to my uncle's house. The secret vent where we'd stashed our old phones might still hold evidence. Margaret and her older brother Theodore offered to come with me. He had his own history with family abuse and knew how to get in. But they were waiting for us. As we crept through the back window, flashlight beams cut through the rain.
Car doors slammed.
Voices. Footsteps. They knew we were there. My uncle entered the house calmly. David told us, he called. Poor boy finally came to his senses. I felt my heart break. David had been our strongest ally. If he'd turned, he's bluffing, Theodore whispered, trying to divide us. But it didn't matter. They had us surrounded. We had one option left. Theodore went live on social media. We're trapped in a house where girls are locked up for gaining weight, he said to the camera. They're surrounding us because we tried to gather evidence of abuse. The response was immediate. Neighbors emerged. Sirens wailed in the distance. My uncle's confidence wavered as more phones pointed his way. This isn't over, he hissed as police pulled up. But it was the beginning of the end. David showed up at the scene, tears on his cheeks. I didn't tell, he whispered, showing me threatening messages from his father. He said he'd out me if I didn't lie. We understood. In families like ours, survival meant choosing the least awful betrayal. The officers took us seriously this time. Photographed the punishment rooms. Collected the papers we'd hidden. Theodore's live stream went viral. Survivors from other states started speaking up. Hashtag Scales and Locks trended within hours. Our family splintered. My mom filed for divorce. Publicly. Others followed. The sewing circle became something else, a support network, a resistance. Mothers and daughters showed up bruised, silent, broken. We connected them to therapists, lawyers, shelters. But the fathers retaliated. Dead animals on our porch. Slashed tires. Lies in local media about how we were rebellious teens, brainwashed by social media. My uncle appeared on TV, all fake empathy, painting himself as a father trying to prevent obesity. But survivors answered back. One woman shared photos of her teenage self, cheeks sunken, hair brittle. They starved me in the name of love, she wrote. I still can't eat without guilt. Then came the trial. We packed the courtroom. Our side full of supporters. Theirs, scowling patriarchs and women who still believed. The judge allowed limited filming. The evidence spoke louder than we ever could. Photos, voice record. Financial records, maps of the rehabilitation centers used to break girls into obedience. My cousin Maya returned with her aunt to testify. Her voice shook, but didn't break. They locked me in a room for 3 days because I gained 2 pounds. The defense tried everything, cultural tradition, family values, even body positivity hysteria. But nothing could spin away the recording of my uncle saying, if we catch them inside, they'll never interfere again. On the final day, something broke. Peggy's father asked to speak privately with the prosecutor. He took a plea deal. Named names. Outed the entire network of families spanning 3 states. Shared everything. The jury didn't take long.
Guilty.
On all counts. When they led the men away, my uncle's face twisted into something I'd never seen. Fear. Real, helpless fear. The kind we'd lived with our whole lives. Sentencing followed 2 months later. My father got 6 years. My uncle, 8. Others got less, depending on involvement. The rehabilitation centers were shut down. Laws changed. Investigations spread. But more importantly, we were free. Not instantly. Not magically. But enough to start rebuilding. Enough to stop whispering. We turned our sewing circle into a foundation. Taught skills, built community, offered refuge. Our group grew. Girls messaged us from towns we'd never heard of, whispering the same words. I saw your story. I need help. And we answered. Because now we knew the silence that once starved us would never starve another girl again. Not while we still had breath to speak, hands to type, and a circle of voices ready to rise. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, please like, comment, and subscribe to Kindle Stories. Your support helps us share more voices that deserve to be heard. Let's keep breaking the silence together.